The council chamber was enormous. It stretched so wide that the far walls disappeared into shadows. Hundreds of seats rose in circles around the central platform, each one filled with an alien representative from across the galaxy. The air hummed with dozens of different languages, all translated instantly through neural implants. The smell was strange, too, a mixture of different atmospheres and biochemistries all blending together in the recycled air. Captain Jiho stood on the human platform, his hands clasped behind his back. He wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's United Space Navy, simple and practical compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by the other delegates. To his left stood Commander Hieri, her eyes constantly scanning the room, analyzing everything. To his right was Lieutenant Dae-hyun, young but alert, his hand never far from the data pad that connected them to their ship. The humans had been members of the Galactic Council for only 6 months. Most of the older species still treated them like children who had stumbled into an adult conversation. Humanity had only achieved faster-than-light travel 3 years ago, making them babies compared to civilizations that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. The chamber fell silent as the council speaker activated the central hologram. A star map appeared, showing 12 systems highlighted in red. Each one had been conquered in the last year. The Varaxian Dominion continues its expansion, the speaker announced. The translator made his voice sound calm, but Jiho could see the tension in his movements. They have rejected all diplomatic contact. Their fleet destroyed the Kellian Defense Force last week. Casualties exceeded 2 million. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Kellians were known for their defensive technology. If the Varaxians had broken through their shields, no one was safe. Ambassador Thelos rose from his seat. He was tall, nearly 3 meters, with scales that shimmered green and gold under the lights. The Kasari Empire was one of the oldest and most powerful members of the Council. When Thelos spoke, others listened. "We must pursue diplomatic solutions," Thelos said, his voice deep and resonant. "War would cost us too much. The Varaxians are aggressive, yes, but they can be reasoned with. All species can be reasoned with." Several delegates nodded in agreement. The galaxy had enjoyed relative peace for centuries. Most species had forgotten what real war looked like. Jiho raised his hand, requesting permission to speak. The speaker looked surprised but nodded. "Captain Jiho of Earth," the speaker announced. Jiho stepped forward to the speaking platform. "Humanity would like to offer military assistance," he said simply. "We have warships ready to deploy. We can help defend the threatened systems." For a moment there was silence. Then someone laughed. Then another. Within seconds, dozens of delegates were laughing openly. The sound echoed through the chamber. Thelos did not laugh, but his expression showed clear amusement. "Captain Jiho," he said, his tone patient, like speaking to a child, "we appreciate your enthusiasm. But humanity has been in space for less time than my youngest son has been alive. You have, what, a few dozen ships? Small ones, I believe. Exploration vessels." "We have warships," Jiho repeated calmly. "The Varaxian fleet numbers over 3,000 capital ships," another delegate called out. "Their dreadnoughts are 5 kilometers long. Their weapons can crack a planet's crust. What could your little ships possibly do against that?" More laughter. Hieri's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. Dae-hyun looked down at his datapad, his expression neutral. Jiho waited for the laughter to die down. "We have experience with existential threats," he said. "We understand war. We can help." Thelos waved a clawed hand dismissively. "I'm sure you do. Every species has conflicts. But this is different. This is galactic warfare. The scale alone is beyond your comprehension. Perhaps in a few centuries, when humanity has matured, you can contribute meaningfully. For now, leave this to those with experience." The speaker banged his gavel. "The Council will send another diplomatic envoy to the Varaxian Dominion. We will offer trade agreements and territory concessions in exchange for peace. This session is adjourned." Jiho bowed slightly and returned to his platform. The 3 humans left the chamber in silence while delegates gathered in groups, discussing the Varaxian problem in worried tones. No one looked at the humans as they left. Their transport ship was small and unmarked, docked in one of the lower bays. As soon as the airlock sealed behind them, Hieri let out a long breath. "They think we are children," she said quietly. "They do," Jiho agreed, settling into the pilot's seat. "And maybe that is for the best." Dae-hyun checked his messages. His expression changed. "Sir, I have an encrypted message from Earth Command. Priority 1. Jiho opened the secure channel. The message was brief, just a few lines of text. But those lines made everything clear. The Vraxian fleet had changed course. They were no longer heading toward the frontier systems. They were heading straight for the Council Station. The diplomatic envoy would never reach them because the Vraxians had no interest in peace. They wanted to destroy the Council itself. Time until the Vraxians arrive? Jiho asked. 3 days, Daehyun replied. Jiho began plotting a course back to human space. Send a message to Earth Command. 2 words, prepare everything. What about the Council? Hyeri asked. Should we warn them? Jiho thought about Thalos and the other delegates, also certain of their diplomatic solutions. Send them the intelligence data. They probably will not believe it, but we should try. As the transport ship pulled away from the Council Station, Hyeri watched it grow smaller in the viewport. They are going to die, are they not? Not if we get there first, Jiho said quietly. The ship's engines flared bright blue as they jumped to hyperspace, racing toward Earth. Behind them, the Council Station continued its peaceful orbit, completely unaware that in 3 days the entire galaxy would change forever. On Earth, Admiral Sujin received Captain Jiho's message. She read it once, then read it again. Then she activated every communication channel to every military base on every planet and station in human space. The message was simple. Mobilize the fleet. All of it. Across human space, thousands of ships began to move. Carriers, destroyers, frigates, battlecruisers, and support vessels. Ships that had been built in secret. Prepared for the day when humanity would need to prove that they were not children playing in the stars. They were warriors from a death world. And now the galaxy was about to learn what that really meant. The Vraxian fleet arrived exactly when Earth Command predicted. 3,000 warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation, surrounding the Council Station like predators circling prey. The massive dreadnoughts led the attack, each one large enough to carry entire armies. Their weapons glowed with building energy. Inside the Council Station, alarms screamed. Ambassador Thalos ran to the command center, his robes tangling around his legs. The holographic display showed the Vraxian fleet in terrifying detail. Every red dot represented a ship capable of destroying cities. Why did they not respond to our diplomatic envoy? Someone shouted. Because they killed them, Thalos said quietly. He had finally read the intelligence report the humans sent. He had ignored it at first, thinking it was an exaggeration. Now he knew better. The Council's defensive fleet moved to engage. 200 warships from a dozen different species formed a defensive line between the station and the Vraxians. They were brave. They were experienced. It did not matter. The Vraxian weapons fired. The Council ship's shields lasted seconds before collapsing. Explosions lit up space like dying stars. In the first 5 minutes, half the defensive fleet was destroyed. The survivors broke formation and scattered, trying desperately to regroup. Evacuate the station, the Council speaker ordered. All non-essential personnel to the escape pods. Thousands of beings ran through the corridors. Parents carried children. The elderly were helped by the young. Escape pods launched in every direction, fleeing into space. Some made it. Many did not. Vraxian fighters hunted them down systematically, their weapons cutting through the small vessels like knives through paper. Thalos broadcast a distress signal on all frequencies. His voice was calm, but his hands shook. This is the Galactic Council Station. We are under attack. Any nearby vessels, please render assistance. Repeat, we are under attack. No one answered. Everyone close enough to help was already dying. The Vraxian command ship moved forward. It was enormous, 10 kilometers long, covered in weapons and armor. General Kryn stood on its bridge, watching the destruction with satisfaction. The Galactic Council had grown weak. They had forgotten that the universe belonged to the strong. Charge the main cannon, Kryn ordered. Target the station's core. 1 shot should be enough. The weapon began to charge. Energy built up, visible even through the ship's hull, glowing red and angry. Then something changed. Every sensor on the Vraxian command ship started screaming alerts. Kryn's tactical officer looked up, her expression confused. Sir, we are detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple signatures. Hundreds of them. From where? Kryn demanded. All around us, sir. They are surrounding our position. Space tore open, not in one place but in hundreds. Blue-white portals appeared in a perfect sphere around the battlefield. From each portal emerged ships. Human ships, the UHNS Indomitable led the fleet. The carrier was massive, bristling with fighter bays and weapon systems. Around it flew destroyers, frigates, and battlecruisers. Each ship was smaller than the Vraxian dreadnoughts, but there were so many of them. And they moved with precision that made the Vraxian formation look clumsy. On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Sujin stood perfectly still. Her uniform was crisp. Her gray hair was pulled back. Her eyes were cold. "All ships report status," she said calmly. "Battle Group Alpha, in position. Battle Group Beta, in position. Battle Group Gamma, in position." The reports continued. 15 battle groups, each one a complete fighting force. Over 900 ships in total. Sujin opened a channel to the Council Station. "This is Admiral Sujin of the United Human Naval Service. We have arrived. We will engage the hostile fleet immediately." On the Council Station, Thalos stared at the holographic display in shock. The human fleet had appeared from nowhere. 900 ships. 900. Humanity was supposed to have a few dozen exploration vessels at most. Where did they get those ships? Someone whispered. No one had an answer. General Kryn studied the human fleet with disdain. They were small ships. Weak ships. Primitives who had barely learned to leave their planet. "Ignore the station," he ordered. "All ships target the human fleet. Destroy them first. This will not take long." The Vraxian dreadnoughts turned their massive weapons toward the human ships. Their fighters swarmed forward, thousands of them, ready to tear through the human formation. Admiral Sujin watched them come. She had fought in the resource wars on Mars. She had commanded the defense of Europa during the Ice Mine Rebellion. She had spent 40 years learning to fight, and she had learned well. "All ships," she said quietly. "Fire at will." The human fleet opened fire as one. Railguns accelerated projectiles to a fraction of light speed. Missiles streaked across space, their engines burning bright. Energy weapons painted lines of destruction through the void. The Vraxian shields held for a moment. Then they started failing. The humans were not using energy weapons like the Council species did. They were using mass drivers. Solid projectiles moving so fast that shields meant nothing. The rounds punched through shields, through armor, through hulls. A Vraxian dreadnought exploded. Then another. Then 3 more. "Impossible," Kryn whispered. But it was happening. The human ships moved like nothing the Vraxians had ever seen. They did not hold formation and trade fire like civilized species. They swarmed. They flanked. They targeted weak points with surgical precision. Lieutenant Daehyun led his fighter squadron through the chaos. His hands moved across the controls like a musician playing an instrument. Behind him, 50 fighters followed in perfect formation. Gold Squadron, target that dreadnought's engine section. Hit them hard. The fighters dove through enemy fire, moving too fast for the Vraxian point defenses to track. Their missiles slammed into the dreadnought's engines. The massive ship shuddered, then began to list to one side, dead in space. "Good kill," Daehyun said. "Reform and find another target." On the Council Station, beings pressed against the viewports, watching the battle in stunned silence. The humans were not just fighting the Vraxians. They were destroying them. Thalos watched a human destroyer take fire from 3 Vraxian cruisers. The destroyer's shields failed. Its hull breached. It should have died. Instead, it accelerated directly at one of the cruisers and fired everything it had left. The cruiser exploded. The destroyer, burning and broken, drifted away. But it had taken an enemy with it. "They do not retreat," Thalos said quietly. "Even when they are dying, they do not retreat." General Kryn realized too late what he was facing. These were not primitives. These were predators. Every ship fought like it had nothing to lose. Every pilot flew like death was a friend. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships withdraw to hyperspace." But the humans had planned for this too. Every escape route was blocked. Human ships waited at every hyperspace exit point. The Vraxians were trapped. Kryn sent one final message to his homeworld. "Do not underestimate the humans. They are not what they seem. They are." The Indomitable's main guns fired. The command ship vanished in a ball of fire. The message was never completed. 2 weeks had passed since the battle. The Council Station was still undergoing repairs, but life was slowly returning to normal. Human engineers worked alongside alien crews, sharing technology and techniques. The wounded had been treated in human medical ships, where doctors discovered that human medicine was surprisingly advanced. News of the battle had spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. Every species heard the same story. The Vraxian Dominion, the unstoppable conquerors, had been destroyed in a single day by a species no one had taken seriously. The political consequences were enormous. Captain Jiho returned to the council station aboard a diplomatic shuttle. This time, when he walked through the corridors, being stepped aside. Some bowed, others simply stared. He was no longer the ignored representative of a primitive species. He was the ambassador of a power that had changed everything. Ambassador Thalos met him at the docking bay. The tall Kasari looked different. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been respect. Captain Jiho, Thalos said, bowing slightly. Welcome back. I hope you will accept my personal apology for how I treated you before. I was wrong. Completely wrong, Jiho returned the bow. We all make mistakes. What matters is what we learn from them. Thalos smiled, though it looked painful. I have learned much, but I still have questions. Many questions. Would you be willing to meet with me privately? Of course. They met in a small conference room overlooking the stars. Through the viewport, human ships could be seen on patrol, their formation perfect even in peacetime. Thalos poured drinks, his hands careful with the delicate containers. I have been thinking about what happened, about your fleet, about how you fight. And I need to understand, why are humans so good at war? Jiho took a sip of his drink before answering. Earth is what we call a death world. The gravity is higher than most planets. The weather is violent. The native life is aggressive. For millions of years, our ancestors had to fight every single day just to survive. Many species evolved on harsh worlds, Thalos said. True, but humans also fought each other. For thousands of years, we had wars. Big wars, small wars, wars over resources, over beliefs, over land. We learned tactics. We learned strategy. We learned how to organize millions of soldiers, how to supply armies across continents, how to break enemy formations and exploit weaknesses. Jiho pulled up a holographic display. Images appeared showing battles from human history. Ancient warriors with swords and shields, medieval armies with castles and siege weapons, modern soldiers with tanks and aircraft, space marines in powered armor. We never stopped fighting. We never stopped learning. By the time we reached space, we had already perfected warfare in every environment. Land, sea, air, space. We knew how to fight in deserts, jungles, mountains, underwater, in vacuum. We had doctrine for everything. Thalos stared at the images. But why build so many warships? You only achieved faster than light travel 3 years ago. How did you construct 900 military vessels in that time? Jiho smiled slightly. We did not build them in 3 years. We built them over 30 years. When we discovered we were not alone in the universe, our leaders made a decision. We would prepare for the worst and hope for the best. So while we sent out explorers and diplomats, we also built a fleet. Just in case, you hid your strength, we were cautious. We did not know if the galaxy would welcome us or destroy us. So we kept our military capabilities secret until we needed them. Thalos was quiet for a long moment. The council will meet tomorrow. There are those who fear humanity now. They worry that you might become the next threat, that you will use your power to dominate others. And what do you think? I think, Thalos said carefully, that humans could have destroyed the council station along with the Vraxians. You could have demanded payment or territory for your help. You could have used this moment to seize power, but you did none of those things. You simply helped. That tells me more about humanity than all your warships combined. A new presence entered the conversation. Dr. Yunbi, a human xenoanthropologist, had arrived at the station the previous day. She was young, brilliant, and had spent years studying alien cultures. The council had requested her help in understanding humanity. The next day, she stood before the assembled council delegates and gave a presentation that would be studied for generations. You asked why humans are good at war, she began. The answer is complicated. Yes, we evolved on a harsh world. Yes, we fought each other for thousands of years. But there is more to it than that. She displayed images of human history, not battles this time, but people, families, communities, cities. Humans are social creatures. We form bonds. We create tribes, nations, alliances, and we are willing to die for those bonds. When we fight, we do not fight as individuals. We fight as units, as teams, as brothers and sisters. That cooperation makes us stronger than any individual could be. The council members listened intently. This was new information. Humans also have something we call adaptability. When we face a problem, we find solutions. When those solutions fail, we find new ones. We never give up. During our world wars, millions died. Cities burned, but we kept fighting. We kept innovating. We kept pushing forward. She showed them the atomic bomb. The council gasped. A weapon that could destroy entire cities in a flash of light. We created weapons that could end our species, and we almost used them to destroy ourselves. But we stepped back from that edge. We learned, we grew. That is another human trait. We learn from our mistakes. The presentation continued for 2 hours. Dr. Yunbi explained human psychology, human history, human culture. She did not hide the dark parts. She showed them slavery, genocide, and war crimes, but she also showed them art, music, philosophy, and compassion. Humans are not perfect, she concluded. We have done terrible things, but we are also capable of great good. We fight not because we love violence, but because we love what we are protecting, our families, our homes, our values, and now we extend that protection to you, because that is who we are. The council chamber was silent when she finished. Then slowly delegates began to applaud. It started with Thalos and spread throughout the room. Not everyone clapped. Some still looked afraid, but most showed respect. That same day, news arrived from across the galaxy. The Vraxian Dominion was collapsing. Their conquered systems were rebelling. Their client states were declaring independence. Without their fleet, they had no way to maintain their empire. Even more significant, 6 species that had been hostile to the Council suddenly requested peace negotiations. They had seen what happened to the Vraxians. They did not want to face human ships. Captain Jiho received a message from Admiral Sujin. Most of the human fleet was being recalled to Earth, but a permanent garrison would remain at the Council station. 3 battle groups, enough to defend against any threat. That evening, Jiho stood at the viewport in his quarters, looking out at the stars. Commander Hieri joined him. Everything has changed, she said quietly. Yes, Jiho agreed. The galaxy knows about us now. Really knows about us. There is no going back. Are we ready for this? To be a major power? Jiho smiled. We have been ready for thousands of years. We just did not know it yet. Outside, human ships patrolled in perfect formation. The galaxy had changed, and humanity would make sure it changed for the better. The battle had been raging for 4 hours. Space was filled with debris and fire. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. The Vraxian fleet was dying, but they were not dying quietly. Major Minho stood in the drop bay of the assault carrier Thunderstrike. Behind him, 200 Marines checked their weapons and armor. They were humanity's best fighters, trained for ship-to-ship combat in zero gravity. Every one of them had seen action before. Every one of them knew they might not come back. Listen up, Minho said, his voice carrying through the bay. We have 3 Vraxian cruisers dead in the water. Their crews are still alive and trying to get systems back online. Our job is to make sure that does not happen. We board, we secure, we neutralize any resistance. Rules of engagement are clear. If they surrender, we take prisoners. If they fight, we end them. Questions? No one spoke. They knew what to do. Good. Load up. The Marines divided into boarding pods, 10 to a pod. The pods were small, armored, and fast. They were designed for one thing: getting soldiers onto enemy ships through hostile fire. The bay doors opened. Space yawned before them, filled with battle. Minho's pod launched first, followed by 19 others. They accelerated toward the nearest Vraxian cruiser, weaving through debris and weapons fire. Inside the pod, Minho felt the familiar calm that came before combat. Fear was natural. Training was how you used it. He checked his rifle one more time. The weapon was simple and brutal, designed to work in any environment. No fancy energy weapons that could fail. Just good old-fashioned projectiles and explosives. The pod slammed into the Vraxian cruiser's hull. Cutting torches activated automatically, burning through the armor. Alarms screamed inside the enemy ship. The Vraxians knew they were coming. The pod broke through. Minho was first out, his rifle up and ready. The corridor beyond was dark and filled with smoke. His helmet sensors switched to thermal imaging. He saw movement ahead. 3 Vraxian soldiers taking cover behind a bulkhead. Contact front, Minho called. He fired 3 quick bursts. The first Vraxian went down. The others returned fire, their energy weapons scorching the walls. But their shots were wild, panicked. The Marines moved like a single organism. 2 went left, 2 went right, flanking the enemy position. It was over in seconds. The corridor was clear. Move forward. Stay tight, Minho ordered. They advanced through the ship, clearing it deck by deck. The Vraxians fought hard, but they were not prepared for this kind of combat. They were used to ship-to-ship warfare, not close quarters fighting in their own corridors. The humans had trained for exactly this situation. In space, the battle continued. Lieutenant Daehyun's fighter squadron had been in combat for 3 hours straight. His fuel was running low. His weapons were nearly empty. But there were still targets everywhere. Gold Leader, this is Gold 7. I am taking heavy fire. Shields are down to 20%. Gold 7, break left. I am coming to you, Daehyun responded. He pushed his fighter hard, engines screaming as he dove toward his wingman's position. A Vraxian fighter was on Gold 7's tail, weapons firing. Daehyun lined up the shot. His last missile locked on, he fired. The missile streaked across space and found its target. The Vraxian fighter exploded. Gold 7, you are clear. Reform on me. Thank you, Gold Leader. That was close. Stay alert. This fight is not over yet, but it was almost over. The Vraxian fleet was collapsing. Their dreadnoughts, once so terrifying, were burning hulks. Their fighters were scattered and running out of ammunition. And everywhere they turned, human ships were waiting. On the indomitable Admiral Sujin watched the tactical display. The battle was progressing exactly as planned. The humans had taken casualties. 15 ships destroyed, another 30 damaged. But the Vraxians had lost over 2,000 ships. It was not even close to a fair fight. Because humans did not fight fair. They fought to win. Admiral, the remaining Vraxian ships are attempting to surrender, her tactical officer reported. Sujin considered this. The Vraxians had killed millions. They had shown no mercy to anyone. Part of her wanted to finish them. But that was not who humans were. Not anymore. Accept their surrender. Have our ships escort them to holding positions. Any ship that tries to run gets destroyed. Make that very clear. Yes, Admiral. On the council station, the surviving delegates watched in absolute silence. The human fleet held position around them, weapons still active but no longer firing. The Vraxian fleet was gone. In 6 hours, humanity had destroyed an enemy that the council thought was invincible. Ambassador Thalos found himself shaking. Not from fear, from the realization of what he was seeing. The humans had lied to them. Or rather, the humans had let the council believe a lie. They were not primitives with a few exploration ships. They were a military power that could rival any species in the galaxy. How? Someone whispered. How did they do this? Thalos thought about Captain Jiho standing in the council chamber 3 days ago. We have experience with existential threats. We understand war. Everyone had laughed. No one was laughing now. Admiral Sujin opened a channel to the council station. Her image appeared on every screen. She looked tired but composed. This is Admiral Sujin. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We are sending medical teams and repair ships to assist with your wounded and damaged systems. Our fleet will maintain position here until you feel safe. If you need anything, let us know. The Speaker of the Council, his voice shaking, managed to respond. Admiral Sujin, Thank you. You saved us. We owe you a debt we can never repay. Sujin's expression softened slightly. You owe us nothing. We came because it was the right thing to do. That is all. She closed the channel. Around her, the bridge crew continued their work, professional and efficient. They had done their job. Nothing more, nothing less. Major Minho and his Marines secured the last Vraxian cruiser. They had taken 40 prisoners and disabled the ship's weapon systems. The operation had been a complete success. As Minho walked through the captured corridors, he passed a group of Vraxian soldiers. They were young, barely adults. They looked at him with fear in their eyes. They had been told humans were weak. They had been told this would be an easy conquest. They had been told lies. Lieutenant Daehyun guided his battered fighter back to the Indomitable. His squadron had lost 3 pilots, but they had destroyed over 100 enemy fighters. As he landed, he saw the flight crews already working on damaged ships. Everyone had a job. Everyone did their part. That was humanity's real strength. Not their weapons. Not their tactics. Their refusal to give up. Their determination to protect what mattered. They had learned these lessons through centuries of war on their own world. Now they were teaching the galaxy. When humanity stepped onto the battlefield, the galaxy trembled in fear, but it was a fear born of respect. The humans had shown that they were not children playing at war. They were warriors, and they had come to stay. 6 months had passed since humanity saved the council station. The galaxy had entered a period of peace unlike anything in recorded history. Species that had been enemies for centuries suddenly found reasons to negotiate. Conflicts that had seemed eternal were resolved through diplomacy. Everyone understood why. No one wanted to give humanity a reason to intervene. The council station had been completely rebuilt. The damaged sections were now stronger than before, incorporating both alien and human engineering. A new wing had been added specifically for Earth's diplomatic corps, with quarters for over 300 humans. And at the center of the defensive grid, 3 human battle groups maintained constant watch. Admiral Sujin had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Human Expeditionary Forces. She now oversaw all military operations beyond Earth's solar system from her flagship, still the mighty Indomitable. The carrier had been repaired and upgraded after the battle, and now served as the mobile headquarters for human forces across the galaxy. Captain Jiho was no longer a captain. He had been promoted to ambassador, officially representing humanity to the Galactic Council. He wore civilian clothes now instead of his Navy uniform, but everyone who knew him understood that he was still a soldier at heart. Commander Hyeri had found her calling. She now headed the Human-Alien Military Exchange Program, teaching alien officers about human tactics and learning about their methods in return. It was fascinating work. Most alien species fought according to strict rules and traditions. Humans fought to win. The difference in philosophy was striking. The Galactic Council held a special session to formally recognize humanity as a Tier 1 civilization. This was the highest classification, reserved for species with significant military power, advanced technology, and stable governments. Only 12 other species held this status. Ambassador Jiho stood before the council as the speaker made the announcement. The vote was overwhelming. Even species that feared humanity voted in favor. Better to have humans as allies than enemies. With Tier 1 status came voting rights equal to the oldest and most powerful species. Humanity now had a real voice in galactic affairs, and species across the galaxy wanted to hear what they had to say. Dozens of civilizations approached humanity requesting defensive alliances. Jiho carefully reviewed each request. He did not want humanity to become mercenaries fighting other people's wars for profit. But he also understood that alliances were important. Humanity could not protect the entire galaxy alone. He selected carefully species that shared human values, species willing to defend themselves but needing help with training and technology, species that wanted partnership, not protection. One afternoon, alarms sounded throughout the council station. A distress signal had been received from a human mining colony on the frontier. The colony was under attack. Jiho rushed to the command center. The tactical display showed the situation clearly. 3 ships, Vraxian design, attacking the colony. It was a remnant force from the destroyed Dominion, probably hoping to salvage their reputation with a successful raid. How long until our nearest ships arrive? Jiho demanded. Major Minho's Marine unit is conducting exercises 2 hours away. They are already moving to intercept. Minho's unit consisted of fast attack ships designed for rapid response. They dropped out of hyperspace above the colony with weapons hot and shields active. The Vraxian raiders immediately tried to flee. They had learned their lesson about fighting humans. But they were too slow. Minho's ships surrounded them in seconds. This is Major Minho of the United Human Naval Service. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. This is your only warning. The Vraxian ships immediately complied. Their commanders had seen the recordings from the Council Station battle. They knew what happened to those who fought humans. The entire engagement lasted 30 minutes from start to finish. No shots fired, no casualties. The Vraxians surrendered without resistance and were taken into custody. The colony was safe. News of the incident spread quickly. The message was clear. Attacking humanity or its allies would result in swift and overwhelming response. There would be no warnings, no second chances, just overwhelming force. That evening, Ambassador Thelos hosted a private dinner for the human delegation. The meal was elaborate, featuring dishes from a dozen different worlds. The conversation was pleasant and relaxed. They had become friends over the past months. As the meal concluded, Thelos raised his glass. I must confess something, he said. After the battle, many of us feared that humanity would use your power to conquer, that you would become the next Vraxian dominion ruling through fear. Jiho waited for him to continue. But you have not. You help those who need help. You defend those who cannot defend themselves. You offer partnership instead of domination. I was wrong to fear you. The galaxy is better because humanity stepped onto the battlefield. Jiho smiled. We learned a long time ago that conquest is not sustainable. You cannot rule through fear forever. True strength comes from cooperation and mutual respect. We fight not for glory or territory, but to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And that, Thalos said, is why the galaxy needs you. They drank to that. 2 weeks later, the council station hosted a ceremony. A monument was being unveiled to commemorate the Battle of the Council Station. It was a massive structure of metal and crystal, showing human and alien ships fighting side by side. Names were inscribed on the base. Every human who died in the battle. Every alien who stood their ground. Admiral Sujin attended the ceremony in her formal uniform. Captain Jiho stood beside her, along with Commander Hyeri, Lieutenant Dae-hyun, Major Minho, and Dr. Yunbi. They represented the different aspects of humanity that had saved the Council. Military strength, diplomatic wisdom, tactical brilliance, courage under fire, understanding and compassion. As the monument was unveiled, thousands of beings applauded. The sound echoed through the station. Sujin leaned toward Jiho and spoke quietly. Do you think this will last? This peace? Nothing lasts forever, Jiho replied. But for now we have given the galaxy something it did not have before. Hope, and the knowledge that someone will stand against the darkness. Sujin nodded. Humanity's greatest strength is not our weapons or our tactics. It is our refusal to stand by when others are in danger. For the first time in human history, Jiho added, we are not fighting for survival. We are fighting for something greater, for a galaxy where everyone can live in peace. As the ceremony ended, Lieutenant Dae-hyun rushed over with urgent news. His datapad showed long-range sensor readings. Unknown ships had been detected entering Council space from beyond the galactic rim. Dozens of them. Their technology was unlike anything in the database, and they were heading toward inhabited systems. Admiral Sujin's expression changed instantly. The diplomat vanished, replaced by the warrior. All human ships to full alert. I want battle groups moving to intercept within the hour. Get me a tactical analysis, and send a priority message to Earth Command. We may need reinforcements. Jiho immediately contacted the council speaker. The unknown ships were entering multiple systems simultaneously. It was a coordinated movement. This was not a random encounter. This was an invasion. Within hours, the council chamber was filled again. Delegates from hundreds of species gathered, their faces showing fear and uncertainty. But this time, there was something else too. Confidence. Because they knew humanity was there. Jiho stood before them, calm and composed. We do not know who these newcomers are. We do not know if they are hostile or peaceful. But we will find out. And if they threaten the peace we have built, they will learn the same lesson the Vraxians learned. He looked around the chamber. The galaxy trembled when humanity stepped onto the battlefield 6 months ago. We showed you that we know how to fight. We showed you that we will protect those who need protection. Now we face a new threat. And we will face it together. Because that is who we are. That is who we choose to be. The delegates rose as one, applauding. This time there was no mockery. No dismissal. Only respect and gratitude. Admiral Sujin watched from the Indomitable's bridge as her fleet prepared for battle. She did not know what was coming. But she knew humanity was ready. They had been preparing for this their entire history. The unknown ships continued their approach. Across the galaxy, species watched and waited, but they were not afraid. Because humanity had taught them something important. Darkness would always exist in the universe. Threats would always emerge. But now there were warriors standing ready to face those threats. Warriors from a death world who had learned through suffering and sacrifice how to protect what mattered. The galaxy had trembled when humanity stepped onto the battlefield. Now it was time for the next threat to tremble, because humanity was not alone anymore. They stood with allies. They stood with friends, and together they would stand against anything that threatened the peace they had built. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.